It's March 2022, and for final year students, there's just 3 months left before they finish university and begin life as a graduate. In Oxford, PPE student Rachel Hart is disappointed with her lack of progress in securing a graduate job and has been finding things tough.
Since we last spoke, I have been rejected from around 6 jobs, but I think it's slightly higher. I have one job left, I guess, one that hasn't rejected me as yet, and that is the NHS Policy and Strategy Fast Stream. And I had the assessment centre for that last Friday, and I felt it went well and it was more enjoyable than I was anticipating. The people were good, they were good communicators, they were friendly.
Rachel sees this as her dream job and was encouraged to hear about the NHS's focus on diversity and inclusion.
Especially with regard to the COVID-19 pandemic and the health inequalities that has exacerbated. Diversity and inclusion needs to be more than a buzzword, it needs to be rooted into every single organisational structure that exists. And the NHS is an organisation, in my experience, and I'd like to add in my very limited experience, that seems to be doing that.
Unfortunately, Rachel won't hear the outcome of her NHS application until April, so she's had to consider some other options.
So I've applied for a master's here, and I'll hear back about that before then. So in some ways it's a relief, because I think, like a lot of grads, or soon to be grads, the state of the jobs market is actually depressingly bad. And a panic master's, however inane a phrase, is like the best play for me, potentially, if I don't get this.
And Rachel isn't the only one to be finding this year's job market challenging.
I think a lot of people have really given up. And gave up a long time ago, honestly. I think there's a particular generation of people who spent a lot of time living through a pandemic, and that has impacted them in meaningful ways that we won't know about for a good few years. And I think that I love my year group, but we're feeling pretty ground down.
Rachel thinks employers need to be more sympathetic to students applying for graduate jobs.
Student apathy is a phrase that irritates me. Students are never apathetic. Recruiters have to realise that they are sometimes intentionally and sometimes unintentionally falling into the trope of young people don't realise how good they've got it. And actually, young people got it pretty bad.
And she believes there are longer-term issues with the graduate job market.
But financial crisis and the stagnation that caused, and then the coronavirus pandemic, means that there aren't as many opportunities as there once were. In meaningful ways, like the quality of life, obviously, but also specifically with regard to employment. Meaningful jobs that matter to people, that people care about, that want to, invest their time, money, lives into. Because it is fundamentally about what you're doing for the rest of your life.
Up in Edinburgh, biological sciences finalist Ben Roberts has a confirmed graduate job offer from HSBC, but has also been making applications for jobs in consulting.
The main other ones I applied for were PwC and Deloitte, and I got through to the very last round of Deloitte, and it was just before the assessment centre. They said I passed the stages to get into the assessment centre, but after that I didn't hear back. So a bit unfortunate, but I wasn't too bothered because I'm pretty happy with my HSBC offer, which I've taken.
HSBC have been working hard to keep Ben informed and interested in their commercial banking programme.
I'm definitely feeling a lot more convinced because we've been having monthly catch-up calls, and then they'll do a session at the end where they have a speaker in from HSBC to answer loads of our questions. So the most recent one was a day in the life of a graduate, which was really helpful to see because it's given me a good picture of what I can expect. and I'm liking how like flexible it's sounding. And last time I was saying I'm not sure if I can be placed in London, and I think if I want to be placed in London, I should be able to be placed in London, which I'm happy about. I've just sort of lived in Scotland my whole life, so it'd be nice to have a change, bit of nicer weather, and like I think that's where kind of all the opportunities are, and I'll make loads more connections. It's really appealing to me because I think there's going to be such a big graduate scene, and it should open up a lot of opportunities. So yeah, feeling positive.
Ben's relieved to be in this situation.
I suppose I've kind of always had a job sorted this year, so I've, compared to like some of my friends, for example, I've definitely been in a blessed position. I've not been stressed like them. Of course, I've got worries. Like I'm still not 100% sure I'm going to be placed in London because I can't start like planning accommodation or anything like that. It'd be nice to kind of know where I'm going to be settled and start looking. But yeah, I'm feeling fairly worry-free, feeling good.
But in terms of university, Ben's ready to move on.
I'm definitely done with my degree at the moment. Like I think the past year with biology, I've kind of started to just be ready to finish. It's not for me, so I'm feeling good to finish and kind of get into a job where like I'm helping other people and working with people, because that's definitely what I do best. I've got one more big exam and I have my dissertation. I've got a lot of work to do, and I finished like last out of all my friends, so it's not like an easy road ahead, but it'll be rewarding once I'm finished.
In Leeds, Lauren Smith has made it through to the final selection round at 4 different graduate employers. Her first assessment centre was with Sony.
So, had that, found it quite difficult to be honest, and I came away from that assessment centre and I was thinking, that was really intense. I wasn't expecting it to be that intense. I wasn't necessarily very optimistic on the results for that, but they came back really quickly, which is something that I really respect, because I think, you know, when you've put so much effort into it, you know, you don't want to be waiting around. And I was actually very surprised. My feedback was actually really, really nice. Came back and they were like, yeah, really bubbly, etc. However, this role, it was like a marketing sales one. However, they said it was 90% like maths orientated and 10% like creative. So they said that they were almost doing me a favour, because they were like, I don't think you would enjoy this job. So I was like, you know what, that's pretty positive considering what I thought it would be.
Things didn't go smoothly for Lauren's second assessment centre.
They sent me through the invitation like 2 days before. Perhaps I was maybe a reserve, someone had dropped out, I'm not sure. Or maybe it is just like very short notice, I wasn't sure. So I got an email through and it was like, right, the assessment centre is in 2 days' time, it's 8 p.m. till 3 a.m. And I was thinking, it's a bit odd. Obviously couldn't attend it. Sent them an email back, like asking if there was another one, or, you know, just kind of expressing my interest in the role, and just never got a response, which I thought was a bit bad.
But then came the assessment centre that she was most excited about.
There were so many stages for the Unilever one, so many stages. It was like, obviously you send your CV in, then you did, I think it was like 3 rounds of psychometric tests. So that was obviously quite intense. And then you had a digital interview. So had that, had a bit of conversation. I asked him some questions about, you know, what the best thing that he'd done whilst he was at Unilever, because one thing that I kind of realised and recognised about the company when you spoke to the assessors, all of them had worked there 5 years plus. He'd worked there for 25 years or something like that. And then the day afterwards, they rang me and they told me. So it was straight away I knew, which was really nice.
She's really thrilled with the good news.
Yeah, I'm literally so happy. I've applied to Unilever quite a few times now. So I applied for, they had like a Spring Insight thing in my first year. I applied for that, didn't get through. And then applied for the internship, I didn't get through. And then applied for the grad scheme and actually finally got through. Because it's very similar to L'Oreal in terms of it's a big conglomerate. A bit different to what I did before because it's fast-moving consumer goods. I just like the fact that they just almost own everything. It's just such a, you know, well-known household name.
It's a relief for Lauren to be able to focus on her studies and travel plans for after graduation.
It is nice just knowing what I'm going to be doing next year, and it also means that I can, you know, sort my summer, So, you know, I don't have to spend 2 days dedicated a week to applying for jobs. I can literally just focus all my energy into my dissertation, all my uni modules, and also it kind of gives me a bit more time, you know, time for myself, time to do things with my friends or go to places, which, you know, I didn't have before, or if I did, I felt a bit guilty going because I thought that I had too much on my plate.
Looking back on the selection processes that she went through, Lauren hopes that employers return to face-to-face assessment centres in the future.
One thing I am hoping is that companies haven't seen it as, you know, a less expensive way to do an assessment centre. So even if we can go into the office, they're going to leave it. I'm hoping that it is going to transition back to normal once COVID is, you know, kind of further in the, you know, future. I can apply for Virgin Media and, you know, apply online, but I don't get a taste of the actual company. Whereas I feel like for me, when I went to L'Oreal and I got to go to the building, I got to see all the people, it kind of makes you feel either, you know, at ease with the company or makes you kind of think, actually, this place isn't for me, but you don't get that online.
Back in Birmingham, chemical engineering student Sneha Galaiya has been busy applying to a number of different companies in the energy and consulting industries and has managed to secure assessment centres with GSK and Arup. The GSK assessment centre took place before Christmas.
I was very nervous for it, and it was my first graduate assessment centre, so just being in that environment was good practice, but unfortunately I didn't think it went the best for me, so I couldn't expect them to think that it went the best for me as well. And one thing that I actually didn't like about the virtual assessment centre was I had no time to actually talk to the interviewers about their experience in the role, and I didn't really get an understanding of GSK in terms of just how they progressed in the company and the opportunities they present. It was more them interviewing me. It wasn't a two-way process. Whereas I remember when I went for their industrial placement interview, it was very much a conversation and very much I'm learning about them as much as they're learning about me. Researching on a company's website, it can only give you so much information, but what the actual employees feel about the company and the passion and their motivations, I feel like you can only learn that from talking to people that are in the company and their experiences. I didn't have that same experience when I interviewed at Arup. Basically, they gave me an entire hour to be able to ask them questions and talk about the role and talk about the company. And so that was another positive thing about the interview that I had at Arup, which I really appreciated.
GSK gave Sneha really useful feedback after the assessment centre, which helped her prepare for Arup.
The one at Arup was really the role that I was most looking forward to because it was an energy consulting role, something that that's what I want to do in my future. And so getting the assessment centre was something that I was really looking forward to. As a company, I feel like the values in terms of focusing on the quality of work, focusing on the environment, those are things that are important to me as well. And so I just thought the company was a great fit for me. But in terms of the role, the energy consulting role, it was incredible. So I really researched about the company, about the role, about the energy industry, and I felt quite prepared going into the interview. I also personally thought that the interview went well from my point of view, but unfortunately they didn't think the same. But of course, there are many other companies that are, one, sustainability consultants, one, energy consultants, and so just keeping an open mind, just keep on applying, and so that's what I'm just aiming for right now.
Sneha's student visa expires in October, so she's looking at other options so she doesn't have to leave the UK.
So I've applied for a Masters in Chemical Engineering at Imperial College, and I should hear back soon in the next couple of weeks. I will also apply for one at just Birmingham. Hopefully something comes through and I'd be able to do something next year. But I just want to keep all my options open and have a backup plan in case getting a role in industry doesn't work out.
There's one key message she'd like to give to employers with regard to international students.
The only thing that I would really want from employers is to just state on their application, just one line, like if they're willing to hire international students, basically. Because I know a lot of companies I've applied to, if I apply like on Monday night, I get a rejection on Tuesday morning, and it's 10 out of like 9 out of 10 times it's just because I'm an international student. But obviously, like, it doesn't say on their website that they don't like accept international students, or they don't want to sponsor our visas, or I don't know, whatever it might be. But yeah, that's just a bit annoying, like, if I have to say, yeah.
Sneha feels that graduate job hunting has taken its toll on her.
I'm so demotivated, honestly. I don't even know why. And it's so, I know that I shouldn't be. Like, my parents keep on telling me, like, you just have to keep on applying. It's part of life, like, but just going through, like, rejections and having hope is the worst, because I feel like you have hope, you really love this company that you're applying to, and then you get rejected, and I'm like, oh no.